we addressed in that session. I could talk, for example, when I did my town hall meeting last year, I talked about the need to crack down on the sexual predators that go after our children. I said some people are so impressed you can go online and find out where these monsters live, block by block. I told you that doesn't impress me. I'd rather you go online and find out all these monsters live in one place, in Angola, far away from all of our children. That's why we passed 11 different bills this year to protect our children from these monsters. That's why we passed the castration bill last year. I could talk to you about infrastructure and roads. We've invested $3.36 billion in roads and infrastructure since we've taken office. We've committed that much, including $24 million right here in this parish. That's more, by the way, than the last 3 governors did combined in their first 18 months. We can certainly talk to you about the 3 DWI laws we passed to protect our children and our families when they travel on Louisiana's roads. We could talk to you about health care reform. We could talk to you about several of the different things that we did during this past session. When you stop and think about it, there was really one topic more important than all of that. And you can summarize that topic in 3 simple words. It really all comes down to jobs, jobs, jobs. Why is that so important? You know, you may remember on Inauguration Day, I stood up on the steps of the Capitol and I promised you a new Louisiana. I told you that day we've got to stop exporting our greatest assets. Our greatest assets, not the oil and the gas we drill, it's not the chemicals we make, it's not the crops we grow. Our greatest assets, our greatest exports, for too many years have been the sons and daughters of Louisiana, leaving year after year to pursue their dreams, to find educational and job opportunities in other states. I told you that day we had to create a new Louisiana to keep our innovators, our risk takers, our entrepreneurs, our children, and our grandchildren in this state. Yet every time you pick up the newspaper, every time you turn on the TV, every time you listen to the radio, what do you hear about? The national recession. Everywhere you go, all you hear about is the mortgage crisis. You hear about unemployment rates. You hear about bankruptcies, like the car companies in bankruptcy. You hear about this may be the greatest recession since the Great Depression. And what are the answers we hear out of Washington? Same old answers. They want to raise taxes. They want to spend more money. They want to borrow more money. They want to print more money. I said, we can't do that here in Louisiana. We've got to go a different way. I said, we're not going to raise taxes. We're not going to just spend more. We're not going to borrow more. I don't think we're allowed to print our own money anymore. So I said, we certainly can't do that. I said, we've got to do something different. And if you remembered what I said on Inauguration Day, on January 14th, 2008, I stood on the steps of the Capitol and I promised you this. I said, we're going to start by waging war on corruption and incompetence. Now, why did we start there? Of all the areas we could pick, why did we start there? You know, if you're honest, if we're honest with ourselves, when you tell people you're from Louisiana, they tend to smile. They want to tell you a story. They want to tell you a joke. They say, we've heard about you folks down there in Louisiana. You do things differently in Louisiana. Especially your politicians. They're just different down in Louisiana. Indeed, you may remember, I went on national TV. I told one of those jokes. I took it from old Billy Tozan back when he was a congressman. Billy used to go up there in D.C. and he'd say, back in my home state of Louisiana, he'd say at any given moment in time, he'd say, half of our people are underwater, the other half are under indictment, any given moment in time. Everybody in Washington would laugh and say, oh yeah, we've heard about those folks from Louisiana. They just do things differently down there. Well, here's the problem. Those jokes weren't funny anymore. Those jokes were stealing opportunities from our children and our grandchildren. As long as people think there's a Louisiana way to do business, as long as they think who you know is more important than what you know, they're not going to invest down here. They're not going to create jobs down here. That's why we had to start with a special session within our first 30 days. I won't go through the dozens of bills we passed on disclosure, on conflicts of interest, on the Office of Inspector General. I'll just tell you 2 numbers. First number is this. A year ago, the Center for Public Integrity, they ranked Louisiana. They ranked Louisiana 44th worst in terms of disclosure. This year, in June, they redid their rankings. Louisiana no longer ranks 44th worst in terms of legislative disclosure. Louisiana now ranks number 1 in the entire country, according to the Center for Public Integrity. They said they've never seen a state move that quickly up their rankings since the history of them doing those rankings. Better Government Association's got an integrity index. A year ago, we ranked in the bottom 5. This year, we no longer rank in the bottom 5, we rank in the top 5. I had Coach Maneri over to the mansion. I said, Coach, I love being number 1 in baseball. Let me tell you something. I also like being number 1 in ethics. It shows our state, it shows the country. We have changed the way we're doing business in our state. But this was never about rankings or ratings. It was about creating jobs for our people. And that's why we came back into a second session 10 days later. You know, we have now cut, reduced, or eliminated a number of different taxes, 6 different taxes on our people, including the largest income tax cut in our state's history. But in that session, we focused on getting rid of the taxes on debt, new equipment, and utilities. Why was that so important? We were one of the only states in the country that would charge a tax on businesses when they wanted to borrow money or buy new equipment. You know, it was the greatest gift we could give our neighboring states. Texas didn't do it, Arkansas didn't do it, Mississippi didn't do it. Companies would tell us. Their newest equipment in Louisiana was older than their oldest equipment anywhere else. If it was more expensive to modernize, invest, and expand here, they'd simply go somewhere else. And when their dollars went, their equipment went, their jobs went, our children went to those other states. We said we got to level the playing field, so we got rid of those taxes to make it easier for businesses to invest and expand and create jobs right here. Then we came to a third session. In our third session, and this year, we've said our number one priority has to be workforce development. Why is that so important? You know, one of the things I said on Inauguration Day, I hate it when people try to tell you we live in a poor state. How often have you heard that excuse? Whenever Louisiana ranks at the bottom of some good list, inevitably somebody will come out and say, what do you expect? Louisiana's a poor state. What do you expect? Well, that's nonsense. Remember what I said on Inauguration Day. Maybe we've had poor leadership, but we are not a poor state. We live in a blessed state. A state blessed with 30% of the nation's oil and gas, 30% of the nation's fisheries, 5 of the nation's largest ports. There are only 2 states in the entire country with 6 major rail lines. We're one of them. We should be running circles around every state in the country. But having said all that, I love having oil and gas and fisheries and ports and rail connections. But in today's economy, that's not enough. In today's economy, those companies, those states, those countries that want to succeed are going to have to compete based on having the most skilled, productive, educated workers in the entire world. Our people are our best advantage. But you know, there's a number that should worry everybody in this room, in this parish, in this state. Every year in Louisiana, only about 2/3 of our high school students graduate. Every year in Louisiana, over 15,000 of our students drop out before they finish high school. Last year was 16,000. 13,000 dropped out of high school, 3,000 dropped out of middle school. Here's another number. We lock up 15,000 people in our prisons every year. Here's another number. We release another 15,000 people out of our prisons every year. And we know we're going to re-arrest over half of them the first 5 years after they're let go. We've already got the second highest per capita incarceration rate on adults in the entire country. We know these cycles are linked. We know the kids that are dropping out of high school are more likely to end up in poverty, on welfare, and even in prison. We've got to break these cycles. It's one of the reasons we put $8.5 million last year and this year in dual enrollment programs. So our kids can take technical, community college, and college courses even before they leave high school. Put $10 million in a high-cost, high-growth job training program so we can meet the needs of the economy. That's why we put over $3 million in Fast Start, so we can literally provide customized job training programs to employers that want to move here or expand here. That's why we're investing over $245 million to expand our community and technical colleges. We have some of the fastest growing community and technical colleges in the entire country. That's why we're investing over $175 million in our university campuses as well. It's not just about money. It's also changing our policies. We now offer a first day guarantee, saying that our people will be ready to work on the first day. Our community and technical colleges will retrain them for free. We're also changing the Department of Labor into the Workforce Commission so we can move at the speed of business, not bureaucracy. Now, why is all this so important? 70% of the companies that want to move here or expand here tell us one of their top 2 concerns is finding a skilled worker. 70%. So to win in today's economy, we've got to have the most productive, educated, skilled workers in the entire world. I want to be clear about something. I love it when our kids go to college. I think that's a great thing. But we also need to admit not every student is going to start their education in a 4-year school. And that's why it's so important we have some of the fastest growing community and technical colleges in the entire country.